Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that arrived in Riku box number 2. So massive shout out and thank you once again to Riku Sinaxinaho, my Finnish beer mule from Oulu in the northwest of the country. It's thanks to him that you guys get to see some Finnish beers reviewed here on the channel regularly, and you know, it's great to have people like that who will help you get beers from different places. So massive shout out and thank you to Riku, like I said. But for this review, we are going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel before. These guys are from a little place called Tuusula near Helsinki in the southeast of the country, and this is probably one of the first Finnish breweries that you guys will be seeing across the European continent. They are starting to get out there a little bit more, and I've been impressed with what I've had from them so far. So for this one, we are going to return to Coolhead Brew, and we're having a taste of a beer from their Gose Fresca range. So this one is the Pink Guava Ekuanot. It comes in at 5% ABV, and obviously this one is a Gose with Pink Guava and Ekuanot hops in it. So they're also terming this one a Nordic sour, and I'm not sure exactly what a Nordic sour consists of, because, you know, technically speaking, the Swedish sours are Nordic sours as well, but quite often these big kind of fruity sweet sours actually in Sweden don't have hops and things in them. So maybe I need to look into this a little bit more and see exactly what kind of defines a Nordic sour. Is it simply the fact that it's brewed in the Nordic countries? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think this should be quite interesting. I don't think I've had Pink Guava in a beer before, and guava is something that I'm not overly familiar with either, actually. I just find it tastes a little bit more kind of green than mango. It's a little bit just like a kind of sharper, slightly more kind of green tasting mango from what I remember. But yeah, I do like Ekuanot hops, lovely big kind of limey flavours, so fingers crossed this is another interesting beer from Coolhead, and I have enjoyed the stuff I've had from them so far. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Coolhead Brew before, and you will see a few more because I think Riku sent me like 4 beers from Coolhead this time, which is pretty good. You can never have too much Coolhead in my experience. But yeah, you will see more added to that list in the near future, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Finnish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly these days thanks to Riku, and we will continue to add to that regularly over the next few years, I'm sure. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And especially if you're watching in Finland, do let me know some of the other breweries that I can ask Riku about as well. So yeah, let's get cracking with this one then. Coolhead Brew. So as I've mentioned to you already, Coolhead Brew are based in Tuusula, which is about 30 kilometers to the north of Helsinki, and the company was founded back in 2014 by Kleber Gonçalves, who is originally from Brazil. So Kleber worked in the technology sector for a number of years, and this took him to England first and then to Finland, where he still is today. And he started planning his brewery in 2013 and then officially founded the company the next year in 2014. So they managed to get the production up and running in February of 2016, and they've just been gradually building up the capacity of the brewery ever since. And today the brewery employs around 8 people, and the last figure that I have for these guys was that they were brewing 180,000 litres of beer per year. One of the things in Finland, from what Riku has told me, is that the tax that craft breweries face is banded on the basis of the volume that they produce. So yeah, that might be one of the things that kind of hinders the growth of a number of the Finnish breweries, and that's maybe part of the reason why not so many of them have actually put their beers out for export and things like that. I think it's only really Coolhead and Salama who have done that so far. But yeah, maybe I think Riku mentioned that maybe Tuusula have done it as well, and you'll see me review something from them later on as well. But yeah, Coolhead, as I said, are one of the breweries that you are most likely to see coming out of Finland first. But these guys basically bring the kind of Brazilian style of brewing into Europe. They brew a lot of fruit beers, a lot of sours, IPAs, and they've also been starting to do some barrel aging as well. And as of as of March 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced just over 200 different kinds of beers. So yeah, pretty prolific brewery, I have to say, if you consider they've only really been operating for, I suppose, well, it's February 2016, they're just coming up for their 5th anniversary actually. So yeah, 200 beers in the space of 5 years is pretty impressive. 40 a year. Pretty good. But yeah, these guys, definitely an interesting brewery, definitely one of the Finnish breweries to keep an eye on, like I said. And yeah, hopefully I can go and visit them sometime. That would be quite cool to go and film an interview with Kleber. He's a very distinctive guy. He's got his big fluffy hair and things like that. So yeah, hopefully I can bump into him at Brewskival or something like that. That would be cool to meet him and see if we can organise an interview or something like that. So yeah, I do need to get over to Finland. I've been wanting to go there for a wee while. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Coolhead Brew for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a taste of this one. So as you can see, this beer is a little 330ml can. It says on the side here, Agua Fresca inspired sour beer brewed with pink guava puree and Ekuanot hops, soured with our house mix culture using our Nordic sour method. So yeah, that's something I'll be asking him about, asking Kleber about when eventually, when hopefully at some stage I do meet him. But there you can see the Coolhead symbol is quite simple on the front of the can there, but on the back you'll see what I mean, and this is meant to kind of signify Kleber's fluffy hair. If you see a picture of him, yeah, big fluffy hair. So yeah, definitely like the artwork that you get on these ones. The Coolhead symbol is pretty nice. But yeah, 5% this one. Pink guava and Ekuanot. Ekuanot, as we know, about 14% alpha acid, American hop, lovely limey flavours usually. So yeah, I think this one will be quite interesting. So this is one of 3 sours that you'll see me review in this kind of cycle of Finnish reviews, if you like. And I think we've also got an Imperial Stout from Coolhead as well, if I remember rightly. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I think this one should be quite interesting. If I remember rightly, I think Riku told me this beer is one that he picked up in a supermarket. So the rule in Finland is that if something is under 5% ABV, it can be sold in the supermarket. Here in Sweden, it's 3.5. I think in Norway it might be 4.5 actually, but I'm sure Riku's told me before that in Finland it's 5%. I think this might be one of the beers that he bought in his local supermarket for me. So yeah, not sure exactly how much it was, right enough, but yeah, beer in Finland is a little bit more expensive. Finland is basically the most expensive country that uses the euro basically, but obviously their wages kind of reflect that, to be honest. Same with the Nordic countries. Everyone says the Nordic countries are expensive, but that's only if you really come here as a tourist, you know. Wages are very good in the Nordic countries. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, as you can see with this one, this is poured a lovely, what kind of colour would we say this is? It's almost like a hazy iron brew. I'm not sure how many Finns or Swedes or whoever are going to know what iron brew is, but yeah, iron brew is like a Scottish fizzy soda drink, and this one just looks like a kind of hazy version of that. But yeah, I guess you could say that it's almost like a peach juice colour. I've seen peach juice, that's probably a better descriptor. Yeah, a little bit of a peach juice colour. You can see that when we poured the beer, the head was about, you know, a 1/3 finger, and I would say it was perfect white. It's faded away to just be a very thin foamy layer now, but a slightly thicker ring around the edge of the glass. But I mean, it does look pretty nice. That looks like a lovely beer, I have to say. That pink guava giving you some really nice colour to it. But yeah, it does look kind of similar. Just looks like a sort of peachy colour, I would say. But yeah, obviously pretty damn hazy. This one, if we shine the light through it, it is quite, you know, soupy and gloopy. Does this one have oats and wheat and things in it? Let me just check. Yeah, so it's got... yeah, it's got this. I'll need to look at the Swedish then. So it contains malted barley, oats, wheat. Yeah, it is malted barley, oats, and wheat in this one, and guava and hops. Yeah, interesting. I do like it. One of the things this is one of the things that I found quite funny about. This when I looked at it the first time was that in Finnish, you know, I think Finnish is a competition just to see how many vowels you can fit in a word. Honestly, it's a lovely sounding language though. I think it sounds great. But yeah. I just find this funny that guava is the one word that just, there's not a Finnish word for guava. So yeah, that made me smile earlier when I looked at the can. But yeah, I do like these Finnish words. Sisalta oramalas, something like this. Yeah, Finnish, the words are just crazy long in Finnish, but as I say, it's a very nice rhythmic language when you listen to it. It's great. But yeah, the guava in this one's certainly given it a lovely kind of yeah, sort of peachy colour, I would say. It's quite similar in colour to peach, and it's got a lovely level of haze to it. Remember, the haze on these beers really depends on the oat and the wheat content, and the colour that you get out of it depends, 1, on the type of malts that you use, 2, the length of your wort boil, and then 3, on any adjuncts that you use. Barrel aging can also affect it as well. But yeah, obviously variables 1, 2 and 3 are in play with this one. But yeah, appearance wise, lovely looking beer this. Let's have a look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. I have to say it's given me a few nice wafts already when we've opened it up. Oh, that guava is pretty sharp, yeah. That has a fair pungency to it. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. That is definitely an interesting beer. Yeah, I've been drinking quite a lot of sours recently. Just, you know, I think I need to kind of adjust my palate a little bit more and get used to them. So I do enjoy them, but for me, like, a sour is kind of a tasting beer. I would never go and have a session of sours. I went to the Mikkeller Balhalm Wild Ale Festival, and it was good. There was some really good sour beers there, but I found it really hard going. Just, you know, drinking sours all the time, I think, is pretty difficult. You know, I would maybe just have 1 or 2 at a time, and that would be me quite happy. But yeah, some of these sour beers are lovely, and you know, the aroma, this one is great. I mean, straight away with this, you can smell the sort of citricy edge that the beer has, which I'm guessing comes from a mixture of the fruit and the yeast that they're using. And it really has like quite a bit of sharpness to it. And then guava, as I've told you, I personally find, I couldn't tell you the difference between normal guava and pink guava. Maybe the pink guava is a little bit sharper in a way that, like, you know, pink grapefruit is as well. So yeah, but you know, guava has this really distinct, very bright sort of green aroma to it, but you can smell the juiciness of that pink guava kind of mixing together with that sharp citricy thing from the yeast. Yeah, it's just it's a really pungent and very very bright beer, this one. You know, it would be quite possible to kind of saturate your nose with this, actually, but once your nose adjusts to it properly, it does go together really nicely. Once your nose gets fully adjusted to it, I think it works out. But yeah, the pink guava and everything kind of comes out of this one really nicely. So yeah, just let your nose adjust to it before you judge the aroma too fully, if that makes sense. But yeah, on the how do you say, on the kind of malty side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. You get a good bit of the oaty smoothness there, you can really smell that. If you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you get a bit of wheaty bitiness, soft white bread. You know, I do like how all of that goes together. So yeah, it's a lovely smelling beer, this one. You know, there's almost a wee bit just of a kind of bread crusty thing coming out of it as well. The malt base on this one, I would say, it doesn't really give you the yogurty thing that you can get from some of these, you know, you would get from some of the equivalent Swedish breweries like Morgendagens, or, you know, Fermentararna or Duck Pond or anything like that, L11, you know. This one really comes across as more kind of bready, more bitey, I think, as well, in the sour base. So yeah, the oats and the wheat are really having a kind of smoothening effect on this one, rather than a kind of sweetening and thickening by it just going from the aroma, actually. So that's an interesting point to make about this one. There doesn't seem to be a sort of sweet element to the malt base in this one, actually. I don't pick up any, like, you know, butter candy like Werther's Original type stuff in here. So yeah, it's interesting. But I think, you know, the other thing to bear in mind is that could just be simply down to the pungency of the pink guava. That might be masking quite a few things, but we'll be able to tell that in the flavour, I'm sure. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, you do get a little teeny bit of earthiness out of the beer. You're always going to get that with hops, I find. You've got a nice kind of bright floral aromaticity in there, but I think the grassiness that you would normally get from Ekuanot is suppressed a wee bit, just again by that pungency of the pink guava. You do get a wee hint of an oily lime underneath, but yeah, the guava is really dominating this one, actually. I've been trying to decide whether I can smell a bit of saltiness in the beer, and you do get just a wee touch of that. You know, Goses always have that little bit of salty character to them, which is quite nice, and you do just get a wee bit of that salty kind of the thing under the nose as well. But to be honest with you, pardon me, as I've always said about these new modern Goses and Berliner Weisses, these are not the most complex of beers, but they always give you like a really, really nice flavour. So yeah, you don't expect something that's going to be, you know, complex and all over the place. You expect a very kind of straight shooting flavour and aroma profile, but you know, a really nicely executed beer. That's what I always want from these kind of sours. So yeah, take a bit of time and ponder over the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it, but we're going to taste this one now. So this one is the Pink Guava and Ekuanot, 5% Gose from Coolhead Brew in Tuusula, close to Helsinki in southeastern Finland. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skål, cheers. Yeah. I'll tell you something, it's a lot more pungent in the aroma than it is in the flavour. I'll say that. It comes across as a lot more sort of balanced in the flavour actually, so that's a good sign. That is a good sign, because you know, if it was, you know, the sharpness of the guava all the way, it might have been a little bit hard to handle, but yeah, you know, it is actually very, very well balanced, this one. And I think that's one of the things with these sour beers, you want them to be balanced. You don't want them to be overly sour, you don't want them to be overly sweet, you just want them to show a little bit of everything, I think. Yeah, and as I say, this is one of the things, I do like this kind of Brazilian style of brewing. I've been reviewing a few Brazilian beers on the channel. You can check out the Brazilian playlist, and you know, they've got some great stuff down there. That seems to be their style, is to, you know, chuck lots of fruit into the brew and see what it does, and it really works quite well actually. They love the fruit beers and stuff down there. So yeah, hopefully I can get down to Brazil and take a look at some stage. But yeah, the thing with this is it's a lovely, lovely tasting beer. This is, you know, definitely worth trying. Absolutely. So yeah, let's break it down then. When you take the beer in, first thing that's going to happen is front bit of the third, you know, front, just behind the front third of your tongue, you're going to get that kind of slightly, you know, slightly sharp, slightly kind of citricy sour sort of thing. Both the guava and the kind of the yeasty citricy quality. So the yeasty citric thing comes in first, and then the beer just gradually juicens up. It just kind of smoothens out a little bit, and you can feel that nice juiciness from the guava puree just kind of, you know, pushing its way back on the tongue. So yeah, and it gradually, you know, it just gradually gets lighter and lighter and sort of smoother as you progress into the aftertaste of the beer. But yeah, it's lovely. It really is very, very nice. So be aware, it's got a bit of an impact, this, but most sour beers do. But then it really just juicens up quite nicely, and that's one of the things I look for in a sour, is how it makes its transition from being sharp and sour in the beginning to just being really nice and smooth and, you know, solid. So yeah, it's nice in that sense, and as I say, you get it gradually just gets more and more juicy. So straight away across the middle third of your palate, you can feel a bit of the barley malt just kind of sitting underneath and forming the backbone of this beer. So it's got a lovely sort of white bready base to it. If you go to that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you do get a wee tiny touch of a bread crusty sort of thing. You can feel it on the back third of your palate. While the barley malt is still there, the sort of wheaty side of the beer just kind of thickens up a little bit. You do get a little bit of that. The wheaty side of the beer does thicken up. Now, the wheat in this beer comes across as quite smooth, I think. Sometimes it can be a bit bitey, and it does have a teeny little bit of bitey note to it, but I find it really quite smooth. It's almost like you've got a big fluffy white bready note in the back third of your palate. So yeah, if you're coming forward from the back third of your palate, the thickness of the beer is just going to drop away a little bit on that border region, and then you're going to get a really nice kind of, just a really nice kind of smoothness there in the middle third of your palate as well. You've got that nice kind of smooth oaty quality coming out of the beer. Like I was picking up in the aroma, the malty side of this beer doesn't really have a sweetness. It is more a kind of smooth quality that you get out of this one, but I think that suits the fruity profile that this beer has. I do think that suits. I mean, you don't, you know, a lot of these kind of modern sours, if you like, Some of them have a bit of a sweetness to them. Some of them have that kind of yogurty, petit filou type thing that's almost lactosey, but this one doesn't have that. It really comes across as more bready and smooth, so a bit of a change of pace compared to some of the other sours I've had in recent times. But yeah, it's solid. I mean, this, I think it's probably fair to say this probably isn't one of the kind of crazier sours that Coolhead are going to do, but it's really damn solid. I'm sure there will be ones out there that are, absolutely mental. I'd love to see what these guys would do if they tried, like, a classic Flemish red or something like that. If they tried to brew like their interpretation of Rodenbach or Duchesse de Bourgogne or something like that. I'd love to see these modern sour beer breweries have a go at like a traditional Gose or a traditional Berliner Weisse and a traditional Flanders red or something like that, because they do the modern sours really well. So it'd be cool to see what their take on some of the traditional stuff would be. But yeah, this is just a really straight up, and again, a very straight shooting beer, this one. It's nicely executed and you can't ask for much more. I think what we've said so far really covers the malty side of this beer quite well, to be honest. Soft white bread in the middle, bit of oaty smoothness on top, then a bit more of a wheaty character on the back, and a little bit of bread crust kind of in between, if you like. Sums it up quite well. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's definitely a wee touch of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it does get a little bit more herbal, and as you reach the front corners of the tongue, it's got a little bit of a more floral aromatic thing on it. Round the front curve of the palate, you do get a little bit of a lighter grassiness in there. And I think, the grassiness, I think, comes out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. Now, the thing you have to remember with these beers is that when you add fruit into the beer as an adjunct, it suppresses a little bit of the green side of the hops, and you do get that with this beer. The grassiness that you would normally get from Ekuanot, I've always found Ekuanot to be quite grassy and quite limey. And the grassiness, I think, is suppressed by the guava addition in this beer, and that's just kind of what happens. But yeah, let's focus on that kind of fruity side of things then. So in that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a, say, bread crusty kind of thing, but underneath that you've got a little bit of a you do have a little bit of a kind of smooth oaty type thing as well. You can feel that nice kind of smooth white bready and oaty kind of thing forming the base of the fruity part of the beer. But yeah, I mean, you do get a little bit of a slightly oily, limey note evolving off this one. I think that the Ekuanot really comes out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, rather than being right at the forefront, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think you can feel the sort of oily, limey kind of note in there. Just behind that very kind of front curve of the tongue, although in fairness, I actually find that this beer has a little touch of an almost kind of gooseberry thing coming out of it as well and mixing in with the lime. It feels as if there's something else on the fruity side of the beer too. But you can really feel that the guava that's in this, the guava is kind of sitting there on the front edge of the tongue. The sort of sharper sides of the guava, I think, are sitting further forward on the tongue, but then you can feel that sort of softer edge to it towards the back of that front third of your tongue. You can feel the more sort of mango, papaya-like elements of the guava in there. So yeah, the sharper side of the pink guava is definitely on that very front edge of the tongue, but then the softer notes are sitting just a little bit further back actually. So yeah, that's definitely worth kind of paying attention to as well. The fruity side of this beer, I think, is really nicely executed, but the lime and the pink guava really works as an interesting combination actually. Yeah, I would be curious to see how pink guava would behave with like Enigma or Nelson Sauvin, or the other one that would be interesting would be Cashmere as well. Cashmere could be an interesting thing to put with pink guava, because it's got that melon, lemon, lime sort of thing with it. Cashmere's a crazy hop actually. So yeah, that would be an interesting one to try with this. I mean, the obvious replacement for Ekuanot, should they need to do it, would be Motueka from New Zealand. That's a very popular hop to give you limey flavours these days. But yeah, I mean, the combination of the pink guava and the lime from the Ekuanot, I think, works very, very well. So thumbs up to Coolhead. This is just a really nice, smooth and quite easy going sour. And I like it. I certainly do like this one. So impressed once again with these guys, but not surprised. So yeah, good. In terms of the mouthfeel then, what are we going to say about this? It's it's a kind of mid-bodied beer. Carbonation smooth. It does have a wee bit of a kind of almost wet kind of slickness to it, which you kind of come to expect from Nordic beers of any description. It feels quite clean at the same time. The bitterness in this beer, I think, you're probably going to have like 10 IBUs or something out of this one, if that. Does it say on the can by chance? No, doesn't seem to. So, but yeah, I mean, probably a beer like this is going to have it'll probably be technically 0 IBUs. I'm guessing that the Ekuanot will have been used as a late addition hop rather than being used early on in the boil, or maybe there'll be very minimal amounts of it in the early part of the boil. But yeah, I mean, it's a very low bitterness beer, this one, 5-10 IBUs at the absolute most. So yeah, bitterness isn't really playing a big role in this one. The malt base, as I say, is very, very smooth. There's not really a degree of sweetness to it. The malt base really just kind of smoothens out the beer and kind of thickens it a little bit, and then you've got a lovely sharpness and slightly sour quality to this one too. So yeah, I really like how everything in this one goes together. Actually, it's just a lovely beer. So yeah, thumbs up to Coolhead once again. Solid beer in my opinion. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. So yeah, the Gose Fresca Pink Guava and Ekuanot, an interesting one. I don't know if exactly what thought Riku had with this one, if it was just one that he had and he liked, or exactly why he decided on this particular one, but it's certainly an interesting sour. The Pink Guava and Ekuanot is certainly an interesting combination, so I'm glad that he picked this one for me. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Coolhead. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point fairly soon. And yeah, I'll probably review another beer from these guys within the next few weeks, because as I say, there's another 3 in the fridge there to work my way through. So yeah, this one was really, really nice, and I'm not surprised. These guys, definitely one of the Finnish breweries to watch out for over the next year or two. So yeah, the Gose Fresca Pink Guava and Ekuanot from Coolhead Brew in Tuusula near Helsinki in the south of Finland. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, kipis and kiitos. There we go.